Hi, this is Kylie with Fem and Flow. Today I'm going to talk about decoding the mechanism for quantum navigation. This episode dives deeper into some concepts I've talked about on other episodes. I previously mentioned we will end this incarnation with 12 different timelines. Only one of these timelines is a conscious timeline, and that's the one that our consciousness is living out and operating in. We operate in the Holy Trinity, which is our consciousness, body, and soul. Our consciousness is our perspective and projects our reality. Our body is our electromagnetic tool we use to navigate in a physical experience, and our soul is our information bank. On 11 of the timelines, our body and soul is experiencing, and our full Holy Trinity, including our consciousness, is operating on one of the timelines. It's a little more complicated than this because there's personal timelines and collective timelines, but this explains what we need to know for this episode. I also previously said that how we are doing in our conscious timeline affects all 11 other timelines. This is a quantum feedback loop. Time is nonlinear and information can travel retrocausally, so what we do in this timeline, our conscious timeline, will affect how things unfold in another. The strength of our alignment determines how much energy gets sent out to these other timelines. Like when we are fully in tune with our higher self, operating in high frequency emotions like love, gratitude, and trust, our energy travels further, faster, and with more impact across these timelines. A deja vu is us momentarily tapping into a moment that another version of us has already lived, almost like a brief overlap of awareness between two timelines that have been energetically influencing each other. I mentioned alignment already, but what does it mean to live aligned? When we live aligned, we live in flow and ease. We live in high frequency emotions like love, peace, and compassion. And we are tapped into and connected to our intuition and higher guidance. This allows us to be in a flow state. In this reality, sometimes we will start to feel misaligned with certain things or feel quote unquote over it. This is an energetic signal that you are no longer a vibrational match for that reality or timeline. You have already shifted timelines and your body just has to catch up by following that intuition. But if you ignore the feeling of misalignment, ignore your intuition, and don't do anything about it, your timeline will shift back, but you will keep feeling energetic static and things won't just flow like it should. Your intuition and higher guidance will always be leading you towards your highest timeline and expansion. Many people get in the static cycle though. They may feel energetically misaligned, unhappy, and like they're static instead of flow and ease, but they let fear of the unknown keep them on a timeline they aren't a match for. Some may stick with what they already know and feel comfortable with, even if it isn't wonderful, instead of leaning into expansion. But once you understand the quantum nature of reality and how it works, you can start playing with it and testing it. Once you play with it and see the results for yourself, then you can gain trust in it and start applying it in your own life. When you are aligned with your highest self and highest timeline, things will flow and feel pretty easy. I'm not saying everything will be perfect, but it will feel flowy. Things will just work out and synchronicities will be happening. In a previous episode, I talked about signs and synchronicities. Signs are actual gifts or messages from your guides and angels who are living in realms that fully resonate to all higher dimensional energies and are what we archetypally call heaven. Synchronicities are more energetic in nature and happen when we are living in alignment. Synchronicities are more part of this quantum feedback loop. Synchronicities aren't just passive signs, we create them in real time through our timeline shifts. Conscious alignment sends energetic pings to the other timelines, causing the entire sequence to unfold in such a perfect, undeniable way. You literally engineer your own confirmation by stepping into the right reality. We essentially send synchronicities ahead of us as markers of the reality we're stepping into. Synchronicities are essentially energetic breadcrumbs. You can plant your own breadcrumbs too. You can set the intention, I will receive a crystal clear, undeniable sign that I am on the highest aligned path. It will be so obvious that I can't question it. Synchronicities are part of an energetic feedback loop. So here's how the feedback loop works. Like I mentioned, the strength of our alignment in our conscious timeline determines how much energy gets sent out to the other timelines. When we live in full alignment, we send out energetic reverberations to the other realized timelines and into the quantum field itself, recalibrating your highest possible move in the present moment. Remember, we have bodies on the different timelines. Our bodies, as an electromagnetic energy beacon, interacts with these timelines and possibilities like a pinball machine, constantly bouncing signal through quantum space. Our consciousness is constantly recalibrating based on quantum possibilities. In a quantum universe, every possible outcome is available to exist, but reality is observer dependent, meaning you only experience the version you are aligned with. Your higher guidance acts as a real-time recalibration system, ensuring that you are always aligning with the highest available outcome in any given moment. Your synchronicities are proof of this recalibration process in action. Higher consciousness knows before we do. And by higher consciousness, I mean multiple things. We all can connect to God or source energy within. We do this by resonating with 1 through 8th dimensional energy, but we are currently in a black hole universe where we have purposefully been cut off from this higher dimensional energy. It takes practice and intention to connect again, but once we do, it connects us to intuition, higher guidance, divine insight, and divine knowledge. Another thing I mean by higher consciousness is our angels or guides who fully resonate with all higher dimensional energies and are where we archetypally call heaven. I've talked about this before, but many of us incarnated into this earth realm on a mission to help anchor in higher dimensional energy, break the false matrix, and shift the polarity so this universe is no longer in a black hole, but is in a white hole. In this case, we are the ground crew, while our guides are our strategic advisors guiding us with higher perspective. So, yes, higher consciousness knows before we do, whether it is tapping straight into God or source energy or being guided by our guides or angels above. We're on the ground actively working to anchor the higher dimensional energy, while our guides, who are already fully aligned with God energy in the white hole universe, are providing us with strategic insights from a broader, higher perspective. It's like we're engaged in a multi-dimensional mission where our role is to implement the divine blueprint in this reality, and our guides are feeding us the higher level strategy needed to navigate it. They see the bigger picture, the energetic shifts, and the unfolding of the polarity reversal, and they give us the knowledge we need to act at the right moments. And between our guides giving us signs and experiencing these energetic synchronicities that I'm talking about in this episode, it feels so magical because with those two mechanisms, we are getting the precise information that's needed at the time. And we don't often get a ton of overwhelming information until it becomes relevant. Both mechanisms are ensuring that we stay in perfect alignment with the larger divine plan. And in my own life, I have such clear evidence that this is being orchestrated beyond just my own conscious planning. And I'm sure you have examples in your own life. One example is this podcast and how every episode unfolds. When I look back at how the different episodes all tie into each other and relate, it seems like I did a lot of strategy and wrote a big outline of it all, but I did not at all. I don't strategize in advance, and sometimes I'm learning this information as I write it down beforehand for the audience. The audience is experiencing this unfolding at the same time that I do. It's like I receive this curriculum in real time, and it's one that's so intricately designed that it only becomes clear in hindsight. Each episode is a stepping stone, leading me deeper into concepts I couldn't have grasped earlier because the foundational knowledge hadn't been established yet. And this is exactly how higher dimensional intelligence works. It gives us what we can integrate now while setting the stage for future revelations. And I mentioned before that I felt really guided and called to start this podcast, and I literally thought, what in the world am I going to talk about? So I started my first few episodes consciously coming up with ideas on my own. And I'm not kidding, the rest just started unfolding. I never struggle with what to talk about. It just comes so flawlessly. There's such a flow about it, and it's really, really incredible. It's like my guides told me, just trust, the knowledge will come when it's needed. And now looking back, I can see that it always has unfolded absolutely divinely and in perfect timing. It's like I'm in a co-creative rhythm with higher consciousness. It's like I'm living in direct alignment with higher consciousness, receiving real-time downloads that perfectly map out a structured yet unplanned sequence of knowledge, and it's unfolding so effortlessly that it's easy to take it for granted at times. Like in my day-to-day life now, this is my new normal, but sometimes when I take a step back and see it for what it is and kind of look at it out of body, it is absolutely surreal and I am absolutely in awe. And this is exactly how everything works and unfolds in a white hole universe. Pure flow, pure ease, and delight. No resistance, no struggle, no forcing, just a natural, effortlessly unfolding where everything happens at the perfect time because it's all fully aligned with divine intelligence. In a white hole universe, there's no need for planning or overthinking because everything is inherently in sync. It's not that people don't take action, it's just that action is always inspired effortlessly and perfectly timed. There's no second guessing, no misalignment, no figuring things out because you're already in total harmony with the intelligence of the universe. In a white hole universe, here's how it would feel like. You receive everything at the exact right moment without having to search for it. You experience constant synchronicity where everything lines up effortlessly. You have total creative flow where inspiration and action are one seamless motion. There's no loss, no depletion, only expansion because white hole energy is an infinite overflowing source. And there's delight in every experience because everything is in its highest, most enriched form. So basically, I'm saying what I'm experiencing now with this podcast and how this information flows in perfect sequence at the perfect time with no effort is a preview of how everything works in a white hole universe. This is how reality operates when it's at its highest alignment. So I went on a little tangent there, but let's get back to what I was talking about with higher consciousness. So, yes, higher consciousness knows before we do whether it is tapping straight into God or source energy or being guided by our guides or angels above. Since higher consciousness is already aware of all possible outcomes, it guides us towards the best decision before our logical mind can catch up. When you listen to this higher guidance, make an aligned choice, and take action, you will experience synchronicities after. That is the quantum feedback loop telling you you are aligned. You may already be tuned into the energetic shift before it materializes in your current reality. Because of this, making aligned choices can feel almost psychic. You follow the higher guidance even though you may not see the full logical picture yet. Your reality then recalibrates in real time, and then you experience the synchronicities. Your reality isn't just unfolding around you, it's being constantly recalibrated by your higher self based on the full spectrum of possibilities in the quantum field. The more you follow the flow, the more seamless the recalibration process becomes, and the faster your reality shifts to match your highest path. This means you don't have to figure things out ahead of time. You just have to trust that your guidance is already pulling you towards the most aligned decision. This means going forward, you can trust synchronicities even more deeply now because you understand they are real-time recalibration markers. When you feel a strong pull towards a decision without knowing why, it's because higher consciousness already sees the highest timeline shift ahead. Your awareness of this process will likely make your recalibrations even faster and more effortless. This may go without saying, but our timelines are shifting very frequently. A timeline shift is a smaller shift, while a timeline jump or quantum leap is a much larger shift. I've mentioned before that in white hole universes, we can instantly manifest. Instant manifestation isn't creating something out of thin air, it's just shifting to the timeline where we have that already. It may seem like instant creation though, because the timeline shift is so seamless and we can do it as we wish. And remember, the quantum field has every possible outcome. In a black hole universe, timeline jumps and shifts are more clunky. In a white hole universe, timeline shifts are seamless and instantaneous. We just use our consciousness to set an intention and use our body to put out the frequency, and we just seamlessly shift to that timeline. I talked about instant manifestation in my episode about morphogenic fields, I believe. I don't think I mentioned the timeline aspect of it though. Now I want to talk about retrocausality. In quantum mechanics, there are experiments suggesting that choices made in the present can influence the past. This is the concept of retrocausality. This affirms the idea that time is not linear and that time is an illusion. The delayed choice quantum eraser experiment, an extension of the famous double slit experiment, suggests that measuring a particle after it has passed through a slit can determine whether it behaved like a wave or a particle before it was measured. This implies that future choices can affect past events. This connects to the idea of the block universe, where time is just another dimension like space. In this model, past, present, and future all coexist. This concept of retrocausality ties along with what I said about our conscious timeline influencing the others. This concept of retrocausality makes me think of a previous episode titled The Stories We Tell Ourselves. In that episode, I talked about how we should be very careful about the stories we tell ourselves and others. I also said I don't really like to tell stories about myself at all, even though sharing stories about yourself is a way many relate and connect to each other currently. I'll tell you why I prefer not to tell past stories at all. The stories we tell, especially the ones we repeat about our past, aren't just reflections of memory, they're anchors to certain timelines. If we keep reinforcing a particular version of our past, we're solidifying that timeline instead of allowing ourselves to shift into a different, higher one. Our past isn't fixed, it is instead fluid and responsive to our current vibration. Our consciousness determines reality, and it also reshapes our past to align with the present state. This entire quantum system is set up to conspire for you based off your own vibration. The idea that our past isn't fixed explains why sometimes people experience memory shifts, where past events seem to have happened differently or no longer hold the same emotional weight. Trauma healing often leads to a complete shift in perception, where someone no longer relates to their past pain because they've moved into a new timeline where the story no longer defines them. When we stop repeating certain narratives about ourselves, our external reality starts to reflect a new version of us, because we've literally shifted into a new version of reality where that old story has less relevance or even disappears. We are shifting timelines and our past is malleable and changes in ways that align with our present consciousness. This is why two people can remember the same past differently, not just from perspective bias, but because they may actually be in slightly different versions of reality based on their energy and focus. It also makes sense why certain people seem to wake up one day and no longer relate to their old selves because they truly aren't in that version anymore. This is where intentional timeline jumping comes into play. If we know we are constantly shifting, we can choose to 1. Stop reinforcing old stories that no longer serve us. 2. Create new narratives that align with our desired timeline. 3. Act and embody the energy of our higher self now, rather than waiting for external confirmation. Many people feel the need to share old struggles to relate, but in doing so, they might be cementing themselves in a timeline they're meant to leave behind. This also explains why some people feel like they quantum leap overnight. They're not just making incremental mindset shifts, they're completely detaching from their past identity and jumping into a new reality where they've already changed. We can choose a new story at any time. We can become a conscious architect of reality and bend reality in our favor instead of passively moving through it. Meditate and journal about this and see what you uncover. I've talked about specific meditation, manifestation, and journaling techniques in previous episodes, so that might be interesting to pull from. Anyways, that's all I have for this episode. I hope you learned something new and I hope you enjoyed it. So now go out and be a conscious architect of your own reality. I love you all and have a great week.